Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss books and horror. And today I'm here to talk to you about some interesting releases for the month of September.
It's coffee time!
September is kind of starting us on the spooky season. It is when we truly start to decorate our house already because come on, like October is just 1 month, we need more. So in September, we are already getting ready for spooky season. And I have today 32 releases for September. So everybody's getting ready. There is many spooky things coming out in September. And these are all thriller and horror books. They go from middle grade YA to adult. So hopefully there is something for everybody. And let's start. The Dead Pennies by Robert Ford. Abby has just left an abusive relationship, so she decides to go and visit a friend. Now, the friend's uncle owns a building that they are restoring, and they restored it into apartments. And Abby gets offered to live in one of the apartments, basically rent-free, and the only thing that she has to do is become kind of like the manager of the building and take care of things. But inside of the building, Abby, of course, starts to hear some really weird noises, and she starts investigating a little bit to find out more about the background of this building. And she discovers that it used to be a place for sick and unwanted children. So now Abby and Hayden, her best friend, are going to investigate and try to figure out where all of those noises are coming from. Next we have Who Hunts You by Mark Wheaton. High school senior Rebecca is getting ready for graduation. However, some of her fellow seniors are starting to die. And Rebecca notices that the way that they have all died, it kind of has a common thread. The teens that die all believe that they were hunted by a long dead relative. The thing is, when Rebecca talks to the families, all of these dead relatives that allegedly have hunted the teens never really existed. And when Rebecca receives the visit of a specter of her own, she will have to find out what's going on before she's the next victim. Next we have Schroeders Cord by Scott Leeds. This is a debut novel about cursed vinyl records that might be able to open the gates of hell. After his estranged father's mysterious death, Charlie decides to go to the funeral, for the funeral arrangements, to take care of things, and he gets the keys to an old record store that his father owned. And in that record store, he finds some vinyls that are a little bit different from the other ones, and that supposedly if you play them you will open a gate to the world of the dead. And of course, as you can imagine, Charlie, his sister, and a group of friends are gonna do just that. They're gonna play the vinyls, they're gonna play those records. So I mean, why not? They're kind of asking for it. This sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest, but I think it's also gonna be dangerous because I think that opening the door to the world of the dead might also come with consequences. Next we have What Doesn't Kill You by Ken Broski. Valerie and her younger brother have lived all their lives in a place called Seven Sisters. This is supposed to be a really boring place, like people that live there have no truly like dreams or expectations. Everybody is just boring. But then a mysterious woman arrives with a very special ability and she's going to shook the town. I believe this is part creature feature, part survival story, and it has an element of magic, I believe, because of the gift of this woman. So it sounds like a really interesting mix. Moving on to some adult paranormal horror, we have The September House by Carissa Orlando. Margaret and Hal are a couple and they decide to buy this beautiful Victorian house and kind of renovate it. They should have been suspicious. There should have been some red flags because this house was sold to them fairly cheap for, what the house is. So there's your first red flag right there. And they discover that the house is haunted every September. The walls bleed and the ghosts come out to play. And there's a lot for them to handle. Most people will just leave and be like, ciao, see you never. But Margaret is not like other people. She decides nobody's gonna bully her away from this house. It's her house now, and so she decides to stay. I think this is really interesting and cool, that you have a main character that is like, you know what, I know this place is haunted, okay, but we're gonna work with it. So I don't know, this one sounds like a lot of fun as well. And now we have a YA horror. We have House of Ash and Bone by Joel A. Sutherland. We follow 17-year-old Josephine that is a very talented writer, and she is struggling at the moment because she is hearing certain voices inside of her head. And now on top of that, her family has inherited an old house and things start to get worse and worse. So she is really struggling. She doesn't know what's going on with her. Is she losing her mind? Are the things that she's seeing real? There's something in the shadows, there's whispers in the walls, and also on top of that, Josephine thinks that someone is watching her. And September also brings us the new Stephen King book, and it's called Holly. It is based on the same character, Holly Gibson, that we already know from Mr. Mercedes, from Finders Keepers, from The Outsider. And King said that this is a character that he thought was just gonna come on Mr. Mercedes, like come and leave, and that was it. But he fell in love with the character and she decided to stay. So he's really happy that now he has given her her own book. And this is going to be a mystery thriller just like the other ones. So I think what I will probably do is I will reread everything in September. So if you're interested, we could do a reread. I think I'm gonna reread the books where Holly is involved and then just go into this one, even though they're all different investigations, but just to have the full, you know, character development. In this book, Holly receives the call of Penny. Penny's looking for her missing daughter, and Holly doesn't want to take the case at the beginning, but something really compels her to do so. So I'm expecting a mystery thriller, but obviously with Stephen King writing this, I think like in The Outsider, there's also a lot of horror that is going to be involved. And now we jump to something very different, which is a supernatural horror middle grade. It's called It Found Us by Lindsay Curry, and I'm really excited about this one. I am going to be reading it as well since I have it already on my Kindle. And this is about a girl that everybody thinks that she snoops around too much. But she says what people don't understand is that she loves to investigate, she loves to solve mysteries, and that is why people think that she snoops around too much. And one day she overhears her brother talking to his best friend, saying that they're gonna go and play games at the cemetery. So she decides to tag along without nobody knowing. And as they are playing a game of hide and seek, what happens is that one of the friends is never found again, is lost in the cemetery. Next we have a debut contemporary horror thriller, and it is called There Is No Way I'd Die First by Lisa Springer. And when I read about this book, I was like, this is again one of those books that is perfect for horror lovers like myself. So this is about a girl that is obsessed with horror and horror movies, and she knows all the horror tropes and all the rules in horror movies, and she decides to have this Halloween bash. She invites a lot of people from school, also a lot of the popular people, because she wants to get on their good side. And then they start to play a game, but then the game turns deadly, as we expected, as we should. And she then realizes that she's gonna have to fight for her life, and she's kind of excited because now she can finally prove if everything she's learned from horror movies is gonna save her and if she's gonna become a final girl. And we stay with YA horror thrillers. We have another one of my most anticipated releases, and that is Welcome to Camp Killer by Cynthia Murphy. I have this one already. I got an ARC on my Kindle, so I'm gonna be reading it ASAP. And I also pre-ordered a physical copy because I'm gonna need it for my collection. So as you can tell, I'm really excited about this one, and as you can also tell by the title, is another horror book that takes place in a camp. What's going on this year? I don't know, but it seems to be the year of campy horror. We are this time in Camp Miller, and there's a lot of rumors about things that happened in the past in this place, as we expect. And then there's certain accidents that start happening. Somebody nearly drowns, stuff like that, and things are gonna get very dangerous for the kids at the camp. Moving to something very different, we have gothic adult horror, and we have What Kind of Mother by Clay McLeod Chapman. Maddie left her hometown when she was young because she got pregnant when she was really young and she decided to leave. But now she has to return to her hometown with her 17-year-old daughter. She doesn't really have much money, so she's struggling financially, and she starts to work kind of like as a palm reader at the farmer's market to see if, you know, that's enough for now to keep her and her daughter afloat. And it's there at the farmer's market that she reunites with basically her high school crush called Henry. And he is now an older man struggling because he has lost his daughter. His daughter disappeared, never to be found again. And everybody assumes that she's just dead. You know, when a kid disappears for so many years, you always assume the worst. But then our main character is like, hold on, I'm gonna read your palm and I'm gonna see. And what she sees is something that really scares her and something that kind of confirms the daughter might not actually be dead. This book is supposed to combine supernatural horror with domestic thriller, and it is about parental grief. So I know it's not gonna appeal to a lot of people out there, but I'm really intrigued about this one. I did not love Ghost Eaters as much as I hoped, so hopefully this one will be one that I will enjoy again by the author. Moving on to another YA horror thriller, and this one sounds so good. I'm gonna need this one as well. It's called What Stalks Among Us, and it's by Sarah Hollowell. High school seniors Sadie and Logan decide to ditch their kind of a school trip to an amusement park and decide to go explore other areas, and they end up finding this beautiful corn maze. Their first mistake was to ditch, you know, the trip to the amusement park and instead go into this corn maze. But then they realized that they've made this mistake before because they've been inside of this maze over and over again. How do they know, will you ask me? Well, because they find their corpses over and over again inside of these corn maze, and their corpses have died in different ways and they are all still there. So why do they keep coming back to this place? Why do they keep dying here? What's going on? I don't know, this just sounds so intriguing to me. Plus we have a corn maze. This is gonna be great for Halloween. Next we have a queer retelling sci-fi mystery. That's a lot. And it's called The Death I Gave Him by M.X. Liu. It says it's a lyrical queer retelling of Shakespeare's Hamlet, but as a locked room thriller. So I'm like, yes, this sounds like a lot of fun. Hayden's father has been murdered at the lab. And on top of that, the camera logs have been erased, so they don't know who did it, who killed him, but they assume that somebody tried to get to specific files, a specific formula that they are creating in this lab, and it is a formula that might actually in the future potentially be able to reverse or prevent death. So of course somebody would love to get the formula to that. And Hayden now is gonna have to figure out what happened to his dad and who is after this formula. The next book is an adult horror thriller. We have Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. Nobody has a normal family, but Vesper's family is even worse. And that is because they are part of a very religious group, you could say almost probably a cult. And our main character left this life a long time ago, and she was told if she left, she would be never welcomed back again. Years later, Vesper receives an invitation, an envelope that invites her to one of her cousin's wedding, and she's a little bit confused because she's basically banned from the family. But she gets this invitation and she doesn't know if it was a mistake, if they're gonna play pranks on her, if, I don't know, it's something to punish her or whatever, but she decides to go. She has this feeling that she should actually go. And she's going to, of course, have to confront her family, the family secrets, and that religion that they have. So I think this is a cult book. So if you love books about cults, this might be one that you need to put on your radar. Our next horror mystery thriller is called No Child of Mine by Nichelle Giraldes. Essie always thought of herself as a very strong, independent woman, and she has a lovely husband called Sanjay, but what she didn't expect is that she would get pregnant. That was never part of the plan, and also the pregnancy is proving to be really difficult and is making it for her really hard. She struggles a lot with her body as well. Her husband spends the night pacing in the attic and he becomes almost a stranger. And then the whispers on the walls begin. There is something in this house that wants to take everything away from her. Next we have The Black Lord by Colin Hinckley. Eddie's parents keep arguing all the time due to the disappearance of his younger brother Danny, but Eddie has his own struggles at the moment as well. There's a strange figure that comes knocking at the window at night, and this strange figure is telling him that he has Danny, he knows where he is, he's safe and sound, and the only thing he needs to do if he wants to get Danny back is open the window. So we're gonna have a grieving family trying to look for their son, and then we're gonna have this kid that is trying to deal with this entity that comes at night and is basically telling him to open the window. Now we go to YA queer horror and we have Your Lonely Nights Are Over by Adam Sass, pitched as Scream meets Clueless. So that sounds like a lot of fun. I think this one is gonna be fun based on the cover, based on the synopsis, and I'm here for it. Deary and Cole are two best mates. They are best friends and they are known for causing a lot of trouble, but also for always speaking their truth. And now apparently a serial killer got loose from jail and has entered the building, has entered the school, and he's targeting the queer kids. So they have to try to figure out how to get rid of this killer. And I think this is gonna have some comedy in it, or that's the feeling that I got. And honestly, I'm here for it. If this is kind of like a slasher comedy, I'm probably gonna enjoy it. Next we have a middle grade spooky historical fiction, and this is the second book on the series. The series is called Mysteries of Trash and Treasure. So this is book number 2, called The Ghostly Photos by Margaret Peterson Haddix. And it's basically about kids that have specific findings that take them to different time periods to solve a mystery. So I thought that was really cool because it is a way to introduce children to other time periods while they're trying to solve mysteries together with these main characters. And there are certain objects and things, and I think these are gonna be a lot of fun if you have kids. And now we have our first short horror story compilation for the month of September. We have A Taste of Darkness, and it is 13 spooky stories that have been curated by Amy McCall and by Maria Kusnier, and I'm really excited for this one because it is all YA horror authors, and it's YA authors that I have read books by and I really enjoyed. So I'm curious to see how will they do a short story. You have supernatural thrillers, you have murders go wrong, you have ancient legends, you have contemporary horror, so there's going to be something here for everybody. Next we have a new middle grade horror series that I'm really excited about. I think these are going to be great to collect. So the series is called Shiver Point, and the first book is called It Came from the Woods by Gabrielle Dillon. Shiver Point to me sounds like a mix between, you know, those kids books like Shivers and also the point horror books. So I'm really excited that kids are getting a new a series of books that are all about things spooky. In this case, we follow Alex that sees something falling from the sky and he believes it might potentially be a meteorite, and he decides to go and investigate, and so do other kids from the town, and they end up making a really dark discovery. By the cover, I don't know if this is gonna be UFOs or what is it gonna be, but I don't know, I'm excited. I think, you know, kids are gonna have a lot of fun if they get another series like the Goosebumps books and stuff like that, and also the cover looks really cool. Next we have an adult horror mystery thriller, and it's called The Puzzle House by Duncan Ralston, and this I also am going to be reading in September, and I'm really excited about because it sounds something completely down my alley. A group of strangers have been summoned into this beautiful mansion. The owner of this mansion is someone that was in the puzzle business, and he has just died. So in his will, he has named these strangers, and they are all supposed to play games in this mansion in order to inherit the whole fortune. And I'm like, yes, please. Deadly games, strangers playing games, like this is just exactly what I love to see. So I'm really excited to see if I'm gonna enjoy this one. Moving on to another sequel. In this case, we have The Witchery. Book 2 is called Shadow Coven by S. Isabel, and this is YA fantasy with witches. I did read The Witchery, but unfortunately I didn't love it as much as I wanted to love it. However, I think it's an interesting tale about witches, and it's told from different points of view of different witches that are attending a school, and they're trying to solve a mystery. They're trying to protect their town. So there's a lot about friendships as well. So if you're looking for a YA about witches, you might want to try it out. And I wanted to mention it because also if you guys have read book 1 and really enjoyed it, now you can get excited for book 2. Next we have The Roots in Your Bones by Samantha Eaton. After her marriage ended abruptly, 26-year-old Marisa decides to move somewhere else, somewhere where nobody knows her, into a nowhere town. She's currently kind of house sitting a really cozy log cabin when she starts to feel like there's something wrong in the place. There's some sort of like weird energy in it. So she starts investigating about the history of the place. There is a legend about a woman that used to live there and that she put a curse on some guy, and they both disappeared, never to be seen again. But there's old rumors and legends. But now Marisa has found Evie's journal, this woman's journal, so she might be able to actually find out the truth. And we move on to another short horror story compilation. We have Never Whistle at Night, an Indigenous dark fiction anthology, and it is edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr., and these are all Indigenous horror stories. Many Indigenous people believe that you should not whistle at night because if you do, you're gonna call these or that entity. Every Indigenous tribe has a different name for this kind of boogeyman, and I think these are gonna be really interesting because, as I always say, it's so interesting to see what other cultures consider horrifying, what scares other cultures, what kind of myths and legends they have. And you're gonna have stories about everything, you know, ghosts, curses, hauntings, creatures, like absolutely anything. And yeah, if you're looking for a short horror story compilation that offers some representation and some cultural exploration, this might be the one for you. Next we have a horror thriller called The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. And I love the concept of this book because you have a like social media influencer, and she decides to buy this house that nobody wants to buy because some killings happen inside, some sort of massacre. So it is known as the murder house, but she decides, that she can fix it, and in doing so, she wants to record the progress and post it online, kind of vlog the experience, for her social media platforms. But when she starts renovations, like the workers that she has hired start to act weird, accidents happen. So I don't know, I'm really excited because it sounds like a modern take on your typical haunted house scenario. So when you have an influencer that's probably recording everything and stuff, I don't know, I'm really interested to see what they did with this one. And next we have YA horror fantasy. We have Find Him Where You Left Him Dead by Kristen Simmons. 4 years ago, 5 kids started a game and not all of them made it back home. Now at the end of senior year, these friends have been reunited and they've all been kind of summoned by the ghost of the friend that they left behind. So they decide to go back to the last place where they saw their friend, and they decide to play the game again. They have one night to complete a set of challenges, and what I can tell you is that once again, not everybody made it out alive. Now we have another Erlstein book coming out, another middle grade horror coming out called Slime Doesn't Pay. Amy's brother is a troublemaker. We have always these kids that despise their younger brothers and sisters because they are always so annoying. But in this case, he's taking it too far. He's really pulling so many pranks and jokes on her sister that she has had enough. So Amy and her friend Lisa decide that enough is enough, and they want to pull a prank on the little brother. So they look on YouTube for pranks and stuff, and they look for a recipe for a very specific slime, and they decide to pour that on him, but it's gonna have serious consequences. Moving on to another YA horror mystery, we have The Changing Man by Tommy Oyemakinde. We follow Aoife, and she doesn't feel so comfortable in her new school. It is a school for privileged kids with a lot of money, but she has received a grant, and that is why she is able to go there. When she gets there, some of the, rich kids want to be friends with her, but she keeps her distance, and it is when people start acting weird, like other students start acting weird, that she starts to realize that there might be some truth about a legend that goes around in this school, and the legend involves the changing man. This is one that I'm really excited about. I love the concept, I love the cover, and it's an author that is going to be in York this year, so I really hope to read this one when it comes out. Next we have adult horror dark fiction. It's called And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott. It follows a young indigenous woman as she is struggling to come to terms with her life in general. She should actually be really happy. She just gave birth to a beautiful daughter. She has a very supportive husband that always has been really supportive of her culture, but they do move to a really good neighborhood, predominantly white, and she feels really kind of out of place there. She almost feels like an imposter, and there are some of the people in the neighborhood that are making really, out of place remarks about, indigenous people. And then strange things start to happen, voices, things that go bumpy in the night, and I'm really intrigued to see where this one is going to take us, and I'm really intrigued to see how everything ties up together with the indigenous culture of our main character. And next we have, of course, more short horror stories. We can never get enough of those. We have Cold, Black, and Infinite, stories of the horrific and strange, and they're all by Todd Kaisling. There are a total of 16 stories by this Bram Stoker Award nominated author. He also wrote Devil's Creek, I believe, so you might have read that by him. The stories sound a lot of fun. There's one about a town where everybody's starting to be turned into a mannequin. Another one follows someone that is driving and discovers that his favorite radio host is still working, but like from the grave because he's dead. So this is gonna be perfect if you're looking for more short horror stories for spooky season. Moving on to horror fantasy, we have Black River Orchard by Chuck Wendig, and this is one that has such an interesting concept that I truly need to know. It's fall season in this small town, but there is something different this year. There are 7 really weird trees now in the orchard, and these are apple trees. But what it grows from those trees is another type of apple they've never had before. The skin is so red that it's nearly dark, and people in town start consuming the apples as you would. The more you eat, the more you want to eat, and also the more you eat them, the more vital you become, the better you become, the stronger you become, and I'm just like so curious to see what is the downside here. There is always a catch. When something gives you powers or grants you strength and makes you feel good or cures you, heals you, whatever it is, there is always a price to pay. And last but not least is a YA horror that I have also pre-ordered already because I've read other things by the author and enjoy them, and she's also going to be at Yelk this year, and that is Wise Creatures by Deidre Sullivan. I love that this book says that people always assume that hauntings start in places, but what if hauntings actually started with people? When Daisy was 6, she heard voices whispering to her from the walls, and also she lost her parents in an accident. And now 10 years later, she has a happy life. She has been able to kind of move on from everything, but she realizes that she has a lot of blank spaces in her memory. And now sometimes there's specific things that when she touches, when she feels them, specific things when she smells them, that trigger some sort of memory. And those are not good memories. Those are basically pure fear, and there's something really wrong with her past that she doesn't quite remember. So I'm really excited about this one. As I said, I really love the way that the author writes and creates characters. So I don't know, and I love this cover as well. So this is another one that I'm really excited to check out. And this was, you guys, my list of 32 book releases for the month of September. Let me know down below if you are highly anticipating any of these, or if there's any other book that I have not mentioned but that you are really excited about that is coming out in September. Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!